So, did Elvis record that song to show he was a better singer than Frank Sinatra? It's a simple question. The answer isn't. To get there, you have to understand the song, and you have to understand the two men. They were more than singers, they were kings of different kingdoms. They occupied the same timeline, but they lived in different worlds. One was the chairman of the board. The other was just the king. And in the 1970s, their worlds were about to collide over one big, defiant, epic piece of music. The song wasn't even American to begin with. It started in France. It was about the slow, quiet death of a relationship. A man and a woman living together, going through the motions. Love has turned into habit. The title translated to as usual. It was sad. It was mundane. It was real. It was a hit in Europe, a melancholy tune about domestic decay, and then a young, smart Canadian songwriter named Paul Anka heard it while on vacation in France. He didn't love the song itself, but the melody stuck with him. He felt something powerful in its bones. He bought the rights to the music, flew back to America, and sat on it. He knew it could be something special, but it needed the right story. And it needed the right singer. One night in Las Vegas, Anka had dinner with Frank Sinatra. Sinatra was in a reflective mood. He told Anka he was tired of the business. He was thinking of quitting. "I'm getting out," he said. That was the spark. Anka went home that night and stayed up until dawn. He wasn't thinking about a dying romance anymore. He was thinking about a life. A whole life. He imagined Sinatra, this icon, this titan, standing on a stage near the end of his run, looking back at it all. He wrote from Sinatra's point of view. Or at least the world's idea of Sinatra. The man who did what he wanted, the man who answered to no one. The lyrics were not about regret. They were a declaration. Regrets? I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. It was pure, uncut bravado. It was a man staring down his own mortality and not blinking. It was a final statement from the top of the mountain. He finished writing and called Sinatra. He told him, "I have something special for you." Sinatra recorded it. And it wasn't just a hit. It became his national anthem. It was more than a song. It was his personal constitution. When he sang it, you believed every word. It was controlled, measured, almost conversational at the start. Then it would swell, the orchestra rising behind him, but his voice never broke. It never sounded desperate. It was the sound of a man who had already won all the fights. He was just telling you how it went down. He was calm, he was confident, he was frank. The song was his. It belonged to him as much as his own name. He owned it. End of story. For most people, anyway. Now, let's leave that world of tuxedos and martinis. Let's go to a different Las Vegas. A Las Vegas of jumpsuits and karate kicks. Elvis's world. By the early 1970s, Elvis was in a strange place. He had conquered the world once as a young, snarling rebel. Then he went to Hollywood and made a string of silly movies. Many people wrote him off. But then came the 1968 comeback special. He was lean, dressed in black leather, and dangerous again. He reminded everyone who he was. He was Elvis Presley. He followed that up with a residency in Las Vegas. He wasn't playing small lounges. He was selling out the biggest showroom in the city night after night. He was the king again, but it was a different kind of kingdom. It was gilded, but it was also a cage. He was isolated. He was surrounded by his entourage. He was battling prescription drug use. His marriage to Priscilla was falling apart. He was a global icon, but he was also a deeply lonely man. And he was searching for songs. He didn't want to just sing the old hits. He wanted songs that meant something to him. He was a deeply spiritual person. He loved gospel music more than anything. He loved songs with big emotions, big melodies, and big endings. He was a dramatic singer. He felt things deeply, and when he sang, he wanted the audience to feel it too. He wasn't an interpreter like Sinatra, who stood slightly apart from the lyrics and delivered them with masterful technique. Elvis inhabited a song. He became it. The emotion wasn't an act. It was real. So, here's this song, Sinatra's song, an anthem of self-possession and victory. Why would Elvis even touch it? Paul Anka was the connection again. Anka saw Elvis in Vegas and knew him personally. He saw what Elvis was doing on stage. The power, the drama, the sheer vocal force. He thought Elvis could do something incredible with the song. He likely pitched the idea. But Elvis was hesitant. According to some stories, he said, "I can't sing that song. That's Frank's song." Well, he knew. Everyone knew. It was a signature tune. To sing it was to invite comparison. It was like an actor deciding to play James Bond right after Sean Connery. You were stepping into a giant's shoes. And Sinatra and Elvis had a history. It wasn't exactly a friendly rivalry. Back in the 1950s, Sinatra hated rock and roll. He called it the most brutal, ugly, degenerate, vicious form of expression. He said it was sung by cretinous goons. He was the voice of the establishment. Elvis was the musical earthquake threatening to bring that establishment down. They were opposites. Sinatra was sophisticated, controlled, northern, urban. Elvis was raw, primal, southern, rural. But time passed. Business is business. In 1960, after Elvis got out of the army, Sinatra hosted a TV special to welcome him home. It was a huge event. They even sang a medley together. It was a passing of the torch of sorts. Or at least a truce between two empires. They weren't enemies anymore. They were peers. They were the two biggest solo male stars in the world. They respected each other's gravity even if they didn't hang out. So, when Elvis considered singing Sinatra's anthem, it wasn't a casual decision. The question is, what was his motivation? The simple theory is, the one you asked about. That it was a competition that Elvis wanted to prove he could out-sing the chairman. That he heard Sinatra's controlled, confident version and thought, I can do that but bigger. More powerful, more emotional. There's a certain logic to it. Great artists are competitive. The two biggest singers in the world. Of course there's a rivalry. Elvis, the king of rock and roll, taking on the signature song of the king of the crooners. It's a great story, but it feels too simple. It doesn't quite fit the Elvis of that era. He wasn't the young, cocky kid anymore. He was more vulnerable, he was more insecure. His personal life was in turmoil. His divorce from Priscilla in 1973 hit him hard. He felt like he had failed. He was a man wrestling with his own legend. This is where a second theory comes in, and it feels much closer to the truth. He didn't sing the song to compete with Sinatra. He sang it because he felt it. He sang it for himself. Think about the lyrics again. But this time, imagine them coming from Elvis, not Frank. And now, the end is near, and so I face the final curtain. For Sinatra, this was a theatrical gesture. He was looking back from a position of power. For Elvis in the mid-70s, with his health declining and his spirit weary, those words must have felt terrifyingly real. He wasn't just performing, he was confessing. Regrets? I've had a few. When Sinatra sings this, it's a casual admission, quickly dismissed. Too few to mention. It's a boast. When Elvis sings it, you can hear the weight of every single one of those regrets. You can hear the failed marriage. You can hear the years lost to bad movies. You can hear the isolation of his fame. He doesn't brush them off, he carries them. I've loved, I've laughed and cried. I've had my fill, my share of losing. This line for Elvis was raw autobiography. He was the most loved man on the planet, but he was also deeply sad. He had lost his mother, the great love of his life, at a young age. He was now losing his own family. When he sang about losing, it wasn't a memory. It was his present reality. The key difference between their versions lies in one word: control. Sinatra is in complete control. His version is a man giving a perfectly rehearsed victory speech. He never loses his composure. The orchestra swells, but he stays above it. He is the master of his own story. Though Elvis is not in control, his version is an explosion. It starts quietly, almost tenderly. He's telling you a secret, but then the emotion builds. The orchestra swells and Elvis goes with it. He pushes his voice to its absolute limit. It's not a speech, it's a primal scream. It's the sound of a man fighting for his life, trying to justify his existence, not just to the audience, but to himself. Listen to the ending. Sinatra's version ends with a confident, almost dismissive flourish. It's a full stop. He has made his case. The court is adjourned. Elvis's ending is a supernova. He holds the final notes for what seems like an eternity. His voice soars into an operatic register that Sinatra would never have attempted. It's not just loud, it's desperate. It's a man on a cliff's edge, shouting into the void, trying to convince himself that all the pain, all the sacrifices, all the blows he took were worth it. He wasn't just telling you he did it his way. He was trying to believe it himself. He never recorded a definitive studio version. His famous take on the song comes from his 1973 global satellite broadcast, Aloha from Hawaii. He sang it to 1 billion people. He stood there, in that white jumpsuit, a modern god in a temple of his own making, and he poured every ounce of his pain and pride into that song. He sang it again and again in his concerts, often as a showstopper right before the end. It became more and more intense as the years went on, as he got closer to his own final curtain. His ex-wife, Priscilla, said that the song resonated with him deeply. It became his own anthem. She believed it was his message to her, a way of explaining his life and the choices he made that led to their breakup. His father, Vernon, even requested it be played at his funeral. So, let's go back to the original question. Did he do it to prove he was a better singer than Sinatra? No, that wasn't the point. It's like asking if a thunderstorm is trying to be better than a perfectly tailored suit. They are different things with different purposes. Sinatra's version is a masterpiece of technique, personality, and control. It's a monument. It is flawless. Elvis's version is a masterpiece of emotion, vulnerability, and raw power. It's an earthquake. It is flawed and human and breathtaking. Sinatra built the song like a perfect skyscraper, a testament to a man's ego and will. Elvis walked into that skyscraper and blew it up from the inside out, exposing the fragile, broken, beautiful heart of the man who lived there. He wasn't singing against Sinatra, he was singing for his own soul. He took Frank's song and made it his own testimony. He wasn't saying, I'm better than you. He was saying, this is my story too. And his story was different. It was messier. It was sadder. It was more tragic. Sinatra's version is the sound of a man who won the game. Elvis's version is the sound of a man who survived it. Sinatra owned the song, but Elvis bled for it. And in doing so, he gave the world a completely different masterpiece. A song that showed not how to win, but how to endure. He wasn't trying to be a better singer, he was just trying to be honest. The song was My Way.